Welcome to today's event, the Child Abuse Training for Judicial and Court Personnel training session. The purpose of today's session is to provide you with a detailed description of today's presenters are Sarah Wazotsky, OJJDP Research Associate, Rebecca Stevens and Muniba Azam, Training and Technical Assistance and Help Desk Specialists, and Katie McCarthy, Communications. Carla could not be here today, but she would like for me to pass along to you how happy she is that you are here and wants to remind you that this training session has been created to create a space to talk about the updated performance measures, where the analysts will present them to you and talk about the upcoming reporting cycle, associated best practices again. So as Carla would say, sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation. Welcome to the Child Abuse Training for Judicial and Court Personnel Performance Measures. Today we will talk about understanding your program data, how to prepare it, how to collect it, how to track it, and how to report on your program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency's story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the Child Abuse Training for Judicial and Court Personnel program is operating on the ground. To make this session as interactive as possible, please use the Webex Chat to respond to any questions that you see on the screen. So, for example, answering the question on your screen here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data. If you would like to add your name and the name of your organization and your location, that would be great too. We want to know, and we certainly appreciate your response. What is the biggest issue that you have with collecting, tracking, and reporting on data in your program? The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information will be presented. Lastly, we will review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and also provided to you in your copy of the presentation, which will be emailed to you later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measure updates are for your program and understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data you collect between July 2021 and December 2021, reporting in January 2022. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates. Now, the due dates, as you know, are twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. And lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. In the showcase sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting January 2022 using these newly revised program measures. Let's remind ourselves of the performance measures process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in the Child Abuse Training for Judicial Court Personnel program. As you review these performance measures with Sarah, you may recognize some of them, since not all of them were changed in the updating process. Sarah, I'll pass the microphone to you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. In the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division, we have several programs and programs with sub-programs. The program we're talking about today is the Child Abuse Training for Judicial and Court Personnel Program as part of the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division. Which performance measures do grantees report on? Child Abuse Training for Judicial and Court Personnel grantees report TTA outputs and outcomes, child welfare system outcomes, victimization outcomes, and implementation outcomes. What is different about this program, or what standout features make it unique? The program supports development of TTA to improve the judicial system's handling of child abuse, neglect, and related cases, encourages coordination among court personnel, judges, prosecutors, defenders, law enforcement, social workers, probation officers, and other stakeholders. Who are the grant funds intended to help? The funds are intended to help juvenile justice systems and facilities. Funding is used to improve the judicial system's handling of child abuse, neglect, and related cases, with emphasis on the role of the courts in addressing efforts that can safely avoid unnecessarily prolonged foster care placements. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are the result of activities such as trainings or meetings. Outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way you collect data, and that's why we're here today, to ensure that you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 period come January 30th of 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress that you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measure outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures at this online location listed on the slide. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of populations. 1, shared targeted populations, such as children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth. 2, those with a similar service delivery model, such as mental health services or prevention services. And 3, those with shared outcomes, such as youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. There are 15 performance measures in the questionnaire, 6 overall measures, 8 multi-program measures, and 1 program-specific measure. And overall, there are 7 outputs and 8 outcomes. Next, let's look at the performance measures for your program. We will not be able to cover all of the measures for the program, but we will highlight the ones that are most unique to the Child Abuse Training for Judicial and Court Personnel program. First, we will begin by reviewing some of the TTA measures. To report this overall TTA output measure, you will report on the number of training requests received and the number of training events held. A training request is any formal or informal inquiries for learning activities, curriculum development, or for group or individuals or organizations. Training events are planned activities developed to help individuals apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization. They can include both train the trainer and training of individuals. Number of individuals who experienced a substantiated or indicated case of maltreatment is a multi-program child welfare system outcome. You will report on the number of individuals who experienced a first-time substantiated or indicated case of maltreatment, and the number who experienced a subsequent substantiated or indicated case of maltreatment. The 4 types of maltreatment that are generally recognized include physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and emotional maltreatment. Definitions can vary by state. Percentage of eligible individuals who entered out-of-home care is also a multi-program child welfare system outcome measure. For this measure, you will report the total number of individuals who entered out-of-home care for the first time, who were placed in a group home for the first time, who were placed in kinship care for the first time, and who were placed in foster care for the first time during the activity period. Percentage of eligible individuals who re-entered out-of-home care is a multi-program child welfare system outcome measure. Re-entered means to return to out-of-home care. Similarly to the previous measure, you will report the total number of individuals who re-entered out-of-home care for the first time, re-entered a group home for the first time, re-entered kinship care for the first time, and who re-entered foster care for the first time during the activity period. Percentage of eligible individuals who achieved permanency is a multi-program child welfare system outcome measure. Permanency for a child in out-of-home care refers to the child moving to live with an adult with whom the child has a continuous reciprocal relationship. You will report the number of eligible individuals who achieved permanency, who were adopted, who reunified with their family, who secured legal guardianship, and who were emancipated. For this TTA overall outcome measure, you will provide data on the total number of individuals that use the skills or knowledge learned at a training within 3 months of attending the training, determined by a post-training survey. For example, when you begin collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle, July to December of 2021, you will capture post-survey data received during the reporting cycle that reflects that individuals used the knowledge or skills learned from a training event that occurred during the previous reporting cycle or within 3 months of attending the training. Percentage of organizations who employed a new evidence-based or promising service, policy, or practice recommended by a technical assistance provider is a multi-program TTA outcome measure. You will report the number of organizations that received technical assistance, employed a new evidence-based or promising service, policy, or practice after receiving technical assistance, and employed a new service, policy, or practice after receiving technical assistance. Number of individuals who experienced a victimization is a multi-program victimization outcome measure. You will provide the number of individuals who experienced a first-time victimization and also the number who experienced a subsequent victimization during the reporting cycle. Subsequent victimization includes an individual who experienced a new unrelated victimization or a new victimization similar in nature or circumstance to their first victimization. Percentage of new policies adhered to evidence-based practices is a multi-program implementation outcome. For this measure, you will provide the number of new policies employed during the reporting cycle and the number of new policies that adhered to evidence-based practices. Count the new policies that closely followed and upheld evidence-based practices. The percentage is calculated by dividing B over A. Percentage of new policies adopted evidence-based practices is a multi-program implementation outcome measure. You will capture the total number of new policies employed during the reporting cycle and the number of new policies that adopted evidence-based practices. For a new policy to adopt evidence-based practices, it must be made suitable to the requirements or conditions or to adjust or modify to the practice. Percentage of new policies adhered to promising practices is a multi-program implementation outcome measure. For this measure, you will provide the total number of new policies employed during the reporting cycle and the number of new policies that adhered to promising practices. A policy is a definite course or method of action selected from among alternatives and in light of given conditions to guide and determine present and future decisions. Percentage of organizations who employed enhanced resource guidelines is the last measure that we will cover today. It is a program-specific implementation outcome measure. For this measure, you will provide the total number of organizations and the number of organizations who employed the enhanced resource guidelines. Some examples of organizations that may implement the enhanced resource guidelines include child dependency courts, prosecutors' offices, and human services departments. Now I will pass it back to Rebecca.
Thank you, Sarah. Now that you have reviewed the newly updated performance measures for your program, we have a short scenario for you. Brenda Sokup, a new child abuse training for judicial and court personnel grantee, has just received the newly updated performance measures, attended this learning event, and is sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection in the July to December 2021 period, reporting in January 2022? If you'd like to respond, please use the chat. Okay, and one of the suggestions that is a best practice is to make sure that you have a copy of the program performance measures, definitions, and questions to use and reference during your planning. You want to familiarize yourself with these more closely. You want to determine who will be responsible for capturing and tracking the data and who will be responsible for reporting the data into Just Grants in January 2022. Each program may have a unique or slightly different approach to data collection and reporting. Determine what works best for your program. We will now review several best practices while collecting and tracking data. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measures for your program, understanding that each question needs to be answered, even if that answer is a 0, and creating a plan to identify when and how you will collect that data. For example, what type of tool or instrument will you use to collect the needed data? Has the tool or instrument been validated and or used before? How accurate is this tool or instrument? And lastly, who will collect the data? There are several best practices you can implement when collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle. You want to be proactive in your approach, designating staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. You want to review the progress reporting questionnaire before entering your data. You want to ensure that designated staff participate in trainings. You want to pay attention to communication from Just Grants. And lastly, if applicable, you want to review, edit, and validate data with sub-grantees before reporting. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period, as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and document version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? Will you track them using an Excel spreadsheet, for example? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if it is stored on a shared drive, who is given permissions? Lastly, how will changes be communicated? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? We will now review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you'll be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer and address these topics. What do the numbers you reported in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? Use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric outputs to the tangible outcomes. Use specific and detailed, concrete examples to illustrate your points. Other things to think about, including in your narrative, could be providing evidence to support conclusions. What has funding allowed you to do that you could not do prior to receiving funding? And should include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to the program. Take a moment and examine the Judicial Training Program narrative example provided on the screen in front of you. From NCSL Chicago comes the following narrative. Through our grant funding, we have been able to train 60% of juvenile justice administrators. Over 40% of young people in detention centers have been serviced by a staff that provided evidence-based services. Our training also allows us to assess the statutory language by topics on juvenile justice, and through the course of 2 months, our work group was able to reduce reoffending by at least 30%, which was a large community impact. Let's discuss best practices for reporting. Common issues arise since you are required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a zero value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description such as, we are still in our planning period, or there was no activity during the reporting cycle are acceptable responses in Just Grants. Avoiding duplications and counts can be very challenging. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager at a site visit, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is awards-based. Another best practice when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down your funds and create a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award in those instances where you have multiple awards. You want to contact Just Grants with any concerns related to error messages found in Just Grants. You can save your data and resume data entry at a later point in time in Just Grants, And for more information on this, please visit the YouTube video on the link provided on the screen in front of you. Also, you may want to contact the PMT Help Desk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. You are encouraged to reach out to your program manager with questions or concerns. Some grantees may receive funding from other awards. The service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, work with your OJJDP program manager to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. This session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the updated performance measures. You will be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 and January 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, also known as PII, should be done with considerations towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasion of their privacy. In accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or a similar locked enclosure. And when using sensitive PII, keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate counts for numerical progress report fields because project partners do not have access to files, for example, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialists. So, how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms and when you have not been collecting data on victims served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will go over resources and where to reach out for assistance. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where to find additional assistance. The PMT Help Desk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact us by calling the number on the screen or emailing ojjdp@ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage grant award administrators to send us an email. The OJJDP PMT Help Desk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PMT Help Desk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. Just Grant support. If you have questions about the Just Grant system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between the hours of 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with Just Grants, we strongly encourage grant award administrators to open tickets with Just Grants support. Just Grants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in Just Grants, can be found on the OJJDP.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video available on the screen. You can also log into Just Grants at justgrants.usdoj.gov. Thank you. Back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you, Muniba. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's take a minute and let's review and reflect on what was presented today. First, we discussed each of the program-specific child abuse training for judicial and court personnel performance measures, noting the specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data needed. Next, we learned about the best practices for planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle. So, what is next? Next steps include the opportunity we currently all have to collect data that will inform change down the road. For our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You will be receiving a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the Pmt Help Desk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measures gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or those challenges you face implementing that measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the pilot has occurred and we have identified those changes or updates that need to occur. For now, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And with that, we will conclude today's session.